For one of my grad school assignments, we were supposed to write a reflection on our own life, as well as our leadership style. And so, first of all, I just want to share a little bit about my life. Uh, I'm a dad of three little boys, and I've got a wonderful wife. And I've had a lot of, I guess you'd call setbacks or challenges in my life at a young age that have kind of influenced who I am today as a leader and why I have the leadership style I have. First and foremost, the most important things to me in my life are my wife and my kids, but I also have a strong drive to accomplish my goals. So a little bit of background on myself is I absolutely love sports. It's been a big passion for me in my life. I was a captain on my basketball team in high school, a co-captain. I was a captain on my track and cross country team and actually had full scholarships to different universities for track. And so sports has always been a big passion in my life. And what I learned by being a captain on those high school teams and being a part of those teams about leadership and my leadership style is that my approach is one of a more of a collaborative teamwork approach. I feel that successful leaders are open communicators and they encourage others to contribute and share their ideas because the more creativity you get and the more people that share ideas, the better solutions you typically come up with as a group in an organization or a team in kind of any aspect. That is one of my approaches. The other thing I want to mention is after high school, I kind of thought I had life figured out for myself. School came really easy to me. I didn't have to worry about paying for my schooling as I had it covered through scholarships. But right after high school, I decided to go on my mission, like I said, and I went for a 2-year mission for my church. And I was able to fulfill that 2-year mission. But basically, right when I got back, I started having vision problems to the point where I couldn't really do much. Everything was just so blurry, I couldn't drive, and it was almost getting worse daily. So we got an MRI, and it found out that I had a brain tumor in the middle of my brain called the pineal gland, and it was a golf ball-sized tumor. So it was a pretty serious thing. And then the day after that, we had to get an MRI to see if the tumor had spread and whatnot, and it got a spinal tap, and we found out that it spread throughout my body as well. So anyways, I was only given a 40% chance to make it. After thinking I had life figured out, this was a pretty big curveball thrown at me in my life. Anyways, I did 2.5 years of chemotherapy and radiation, and as you can see, I ultimately made it, and I beat the odds. But this doesn't mean that it didn't change my life perspective and didn't change my leadership style. I think all these experiences I had, especially with the health challenges, greatly influenced who I am as a leadership today and the leadership style I have. In order to pay off treatments, I worked 95 hours a week, and I think this goes back to, and was able to do this in a year. I think this goes back to kind of who I am as a leader and my personality type. And I learned about this my first semester in school as well. I took a leadership class, and it showed that my top 5 traits were I'm an achiever, competition, analytical, individualistic, and focus. And I already knew these things. I knew I was an achiever and that I was ultra competitive. But being able to see my strengths after having the tumor and see that those were still strengths of mine helped me realize that I could still be successful and accomplish my goals. I just have to go at it at a different way or at a different angle. And I also learned by taking another assessment that I think it was called Myers-Briggs if I remember right, that I was an extrinsic, sensing, thinking, judging personality type. And this was actually probably more important to me than the other tests because in this test, after we took it, it laid out not only strengths, but also weaknesses. And after the tumor, I kind of had to reinvent myself. I had to relearn a lot of things, and I was kind of struggling to find out who I was. And this helped me show not only the strengths I have, but areas that I could work on and could improve upon. And so I want to kind of show you the collage I made that kind of lays out my life and then kind of my leadership style as well. And here it is. Just give me one moment. So the first section I want to talk about is my life and analyzing my leadership style. So in grad school classes, we learn a lot about leadership, especially in the field of organizational leadership, which I'm studying. And we learned a lot about different approaches. And the first ones that I'm talking about are style approach, situational approach, Pathco theory, democratic, and inclusive. For me, I feel like all the experience I've gone through has made me I think I'd have these approaches anyways, but has kind of laid out the path for my leadership style. My style is really that I feel like different situations demand different types of leadership, and that's why I included the situational approach in my style of leadership. I also feel like motivating individuals is a key component of a successful leader, and I always try to do that as a leader. I also feel like that usually the most successful leaders are democratic and inclusive and are more team oriented, as I went over earlier. Strengths that I've seen from myself are these over here. And I think focusing on your strengths is a lot more important than focusing on your weaknesses. And so that's why I included all my strengths over here. So leadership traits, I of ESTGs and of myself as well, I think I really enjoy creating order. I hate when things are not orderly. I really struggle. And so I always try to find time to be able to accomplish all my goals. I sometimes have health setbacks, which is a big curveball on things, but I always try to be orderly. I'm reliable. I'm an excellent organizer, hardworking, personable, goal-oriented, strong-willed, loyal, direct, and dedicated. And learning more about my strengths really helped me realize that even though I had new weaknesses because of the brain tumor, that I could be a great leader. And my approach to leadership is that we need to find out about others. But in order to find out about others, we need to find out about ourselves. And so my leadership style comes from me finding out about myself. And I feel like I have a strong sense of myself. And I was able to do that by learning about my strengths. And so as leaders and reflecting on my life, my leadership style is really that of a collaborative, inclusive approach, where I get to know others, and then because I know others, I try to find out about their strengths and weaknesses, and then I'm then able to motivate them and be able to assess situations and assess what I should do with each individual. I think an important part of leadership in my leadership style is that I see people as individuals instead of collectively. And that is my approach to leadership. I feel that we should focus on our strengths instead of our weaknesses. But with that said, we shouldn't ignore our weaknesses. So on my collage, I included my weaknesses just so that we realize as leaders that we can ignore our weaknesses, but we'd be better off if we focus on our strengths. So here are some of the weaknesses I have as an ESTG. 2, focused on social status, inflexible and stubborn, uncomfortable with unconventional, difficulty expressing emotion, difficulty to relax. Hold on, there we go. And judgmental. And obviously, we don't like to talk about our weaknesses because we want to show people our strengths. But I've seen that I have some of these weaknesses. And as a leader, I've realized that there's areas that I need to work on. But by focusing on my strengths and by looking at the strengths of others that are around me, that I'm able to form better relationships and be able to make more of a difference. After treatments, as I mentioned, I was working 2 full-time jobs, another part-time job, basically 18, 19-hour days, 95 hours a week to pay off treatments. And I worked at a group home as one of my jobs, and I was a manager of it. And I realized that because I was so busy with my life, that sometimes I didn't treat people individually, and I treated them more as a group collectively. And they didn't respond as well. And there were more behaviors. But when I started taking more time and treating them as individuals, their behaviors were better and better relationships.